Hi there, my name is Stephanie, and this is Couture, Costumes, and Cats. Welcome to this special holiday episode. So how's it going? How are your holidays so far? Might have been a little intense, but I'm very happy to take some time for myself and take time to rest. So I hope that you're doing the same. I've been meaning to do this tutorial for a while. I actually had a live of this tutorial a few weeks ago, but the sound quality was very bad. So I decided to just remake this video for everyone's sake. So welcome to today's tutorial. I thought that we could learn how to make a beautiful poinsettia brooch together. So if you're a regular on my feed, you know how much I love brooches. I wear one or more every day. I think it's just such a beautiful accessory, and I love that you can move it from, outfit to outfit, from coats to jackets to cardigans to sweaters to hats even. So for me, a brooch is a great accessory, and it also makes a great gift. I think the idea for this brooch comes from my love of all things vintage and also from nostalgia. My mother is such a great host, especially during the holidays, and poinsettias were always part of her traditional decor. So there was always the most beautiful red and white poinsettias in the house and on her dinner table. So I thought, why not make a replica of these beautiful things that represents, the holidays and my love of just all things Christmas. The brooch that I'm showing off today and the ones that I'm going to make in this video are made out of wool felt, but this could easily be also made out of acrylic felt that can be found at craft stores and dollar stores. What's good about felt is that it comes in a ton of colors. It's relatively cheap and easy to find, and the most important thing is that it does not fray. So you can just leave the edges raw and you're good to go. So that's why I love felt so much. It's very easy to use and you don't need to do much sewing at all. The only sewing that is done in this piece is to hold the petals together and then to finish it with either a pearl button like in this one, or with a cluster of beads like in this one. So I'm going to show you these two options in the tutorial. The petals can also be left as is, or you can go further and add some embellishments. Like this one has 2mm glass beads. This one has just a little bit of embroidered details just to make it look more like leaves and petals, but you could leave them blank, and you could even use glitter if you wanted to make the little lines out of that glitter glue, the red or silver or gold. It could look very beautiful. So this is a very easy project to make. It just takes a little bit of time depending on how much embellishing you want to do. But it's a great piece, a great accessory, and you'll love to wear it during the entire holiday season. So let's go over our supplies, shall we? In order to draft your petals, you're going to want a ruler, paper, and pencil. I use just this little ruler and a piece of thicker stock because it's easier to use and reuse, and make sure that you have a pair of paper scissors as well as very sharp fabric scissors. These will come in handy because you want your shapes to be very, very crisp. So sharp fabric scissors will do the trick. You can also use boiled wool, as it doesn't fray, just like felt. So I have a bunch of colors of felt, and I have some needles here. Those are embroidery needles, and just a thicker needle for my hand sewing, and a thimble, and some polyester thread and some embroidery thread as well. Use embroidery thread if you're going to embroider your project, and a pin back to finish it off. And if you're going to use beading as an embellishment, you're going to need different types of beads. So the shape of your petal will depend on the shape of your brooch. So if you want to replicate this one, you're going to make petals that are about 2 inches long. This one are 2.5 inches long. So keep that in mind for your finished product. So I'm going to replicate the larger one here. I'm going to make a straight line that is 2.5 inches long. And then I'm going to mark the bottom third of this line and make another line perpendicular. So I have a upside down cross like this. So for the petal, think about a raindrop, but instead of having just a rounded bottom, make it a little bit more tapered. And we only need to draft one side of the petal because we're going to fold our paper in half and then cut it. By using this method, you ensure that both sides of your shape are equal. So it just makes it faster and, perfectly symmetrical. As you can see, this is the shape of my petal, but also the leaves. If you want to recreate this look with the double petals, you just measure. This one was 1.5 inches. And I'm going to trace my petal here, and we're going to make a smaller version of it. So just draft a line and then kind of use the outside of the petal to redraft the shape and fold it in half and cut it just like before. So as I said earlier, I like to use wool felt for this. I buy my felt from thefeltstore.ca. This is a combination of 2mm thick and 1mm thick wool felt. I purchased the green one as part of a bundle, and it came with a bunch of colors, so it's a lot of fun. I'm going to take my little pattern and put it on top of my felt, and if I don't want it to move at all, I'm just going to pin it in place. It's really easy to pin through felt, so this works out great. And to recreate the poinsettia that I showed you at the beginning, we're going to cut out 5 red petals. Once you have your 5 petals, find your matching thread and get your needle ready. Use 2 strands of thread to make it extra secure, and you'll be ready to start sewing your brooch together. Try to find a thicker, really sharp needle. It'll be easier to complete this step. So take your petal with the pointy edge up. You're going to fold it in half and sew the bottom together. Try to create a little pucker here. So we're doing that to add some shape to the petal. You could just keep it flat and just glue them together if you want, but by using this technique, you're adding a little bit of shape to your petals and it makes it look a little bit more realistic. So we're going to do that with every petal. And as you go, you're going to sew them together to be joined at the center. So it gets a little bit finicky the more petals you have, but take your time and use your thimble. Repeat the process with every petal, joining them at the center, like I said. And at the end, just go over each petal just a couple more times so that it's held together really tightly. The center is going to have a lot of stuff going on your brooch, so you want to make sure that it's nice and secure. And when you're done, just knot it in place. For the petals, it's going to be the same process, and I'm actually going to double up and cut 2 at a time. So I picked 2 colors of teal green here, and I'm going to cut my petals, my leaves, the same way that I cut out my petals. You can choose to put as many leaves or as little as you want. I'm going to cut out about 5 or 6 of them. You can choose to make your embellishments to the petals and the leaves before sewing them together or before even cutting them if you want. I prefer to do it once the brooch has taken shape because then it gives me an idea of where the embroidery or the beads should go. So as I go, I like to look and sort of put the leaves in place, test it out, see how it looks, and then just 2 at a time, 1 at a time, just sew them on the back. And just keep going until you're satisfied with the way that it looks. This is the part where you have yet another choice to make. You can choose to leave your petals blank. You could embroider them like I did with the one on the right here, just to add little lines, adding texture and a little bit more realism to the petals and the leaves. Or you can go all out and add some glass beads. I chose to add beads that are the same color as the felt, but you could add beads that are completely different to add even more shimmer. Or you could use glitter glue, as I said before, and just draw the lines on top. Now, I haven't made a video on how to embroider yet, but I will, so keep an eye out. Today, I'm going to show you how to embellish using glass beads. So make sure that you use a beading needle, otherwise the eye will be too big and you won't be able to slide your tiny beads. So using a thread that is either matching or contrasting, you're going to make a little line here on your petal. And I decided to break mine into different sections so that I can add beads. So coming back to the front, I'm going to slip my bead in and secure it in place through the back. And to make sure that it really doesn't move and that my thread is straight, I'm going to go through that bead once more with my thread and keep going up the petal. This is a beading technique that I learned, and it allows you to not only apply beads in a really precise manner, it makes sure that they're very secure, so they're not going to fall, they're not going anywhere, they're not going to move. So they're going to be on your petals very tight. So you keep going there on your petal, making a straight line. You could add one at the end. I chose to just leave it blank, and I'm going to go off to one side and start creating my little lines. So you can draw your pattern on your petals in advance, but I kind of just wing it using my thread as a guide. So I'll just press it on the petal or the leaf and before I pin it, so you can sort of see where the line should go. I'm gonna keep going, creating that little design on my petals, making sure that every bead is secure. So you go through every bead twice. So try to keep it neat in the back. You won't necessarily see it, but it's not, completely invisible because it's, you're not going to finish the back. So try to keep it neat back there. The next part is to cover the center of your brooch with either a button or a cluster of beads. So I used 5mm pearls to finish off my project. And I'm going to create a little cluster of beads. So I'm just going to keep adding beads until the middle there is hidden. Because where we joined our petals, we see some thread, we see the end of the petals. So we want to make sure that we cover that with, a button, a large pearl, or some smaller beads. I've used even smaller beads than that. I've used 3mm beads. You will need to create a larger cluster though. The smaller the beads are, the more you'll need to use to hide your seams there. We've made it to the very last step. So now we need to create the back of the brooch by installing a pin back. I'm going to use a thread that matches my felt at the back here. And depending on the size of the pin back that you use, it should be large enough to hold your project. This one is 1 1/4 inch, which is a good size for this brooch. I'm going to cut a circle of felt to create this back piece. You can use anything that's a circle shape to, create your shape, or you can just wing it. Since I'm using the thinner felt, I'm actually going to cut out 2 circles. And once it's ready, you're going to sew the pin back in place before you add it onto your brooch. That way you can hide all the threads, and it's actually way easier to sew it like that than to sew it on the final project. When you're done your sewing, secure it in place with a couple knots and snip your thread. So now it's ready to glue it to the back. You could stitch it, but I choose to just use hot glue. It's way faster. You may also want to move your petals and your leaves around. This is your last chance to shape the brooch exactly how you want it, and then just glue that pin back in place. I also wanted to take a second and show off my beautiful earrings by Sarah's Interesting Project. She's a young designer that I met earlier this month, and she has a beautiful collection of earrings. I just had to get these Christmassy ones and show them off. Alright, that's it for my tutorial. I hope you're ready to try on your own. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Drop me a comment if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time. Happy New Year!